Well, hello, friends. It's me. I know, you're surprised. Anyway, it's time for a story. A story that was sent to us rather specifically. Our friend Emerald Aussie has sent a tale that apparently I requested. And you know, now that I read that, I'm actually thinking back on it. And yeah, I think I did. I think I enthusiastically did. So let's get right into this. This is, again, from Emerald Aussie. This is The Tale of Kitty. If this is what I think it is, I remember this being kind of insane. I also want to point out that the subtext to this is as requested by Moonhorse. So this is completely my fault. Let's begin the story, shall we? First of all, thank you to Moonhorse for reading my Squirrelbeard tale. Well, thank you for writing it. During this story, I mentioned that I knew a girl named Kitty in high school and said that I would write that story if anyone was interested. Moonhorse asked, and it's the least I can do since he shared my first stories with such kindness and compassion. Oh, well, first off, thank you. And secondly, I mean, I do love weird stories, so go for it. Nothing will stop me. And so, with that, I bring you the tale of Kitty. I should probably say up front that this tale is of mental health. A lot of mental health. So fair warning, I actually had to verbally recall the story to Beetle before sitting down to write this to make sure I remembered everything. Oh boy. So before we dive in, let's make sure we know all the folks that we're discussing. OP, myself, was 16 at this time in year 11 of school. Not the nicest person during this time due to the events that transpired in the whole Squirrelbeard saga. I remember. Beetle, 17, year 12 of school. New kid in my school and bleeding heart hippie, his words. Kitty, 15, year 10 of school, the focus of the story. Not sure if she qualifies as a legbeard or not. I'll let you be the judge after you read the story. The water boy, oh my god, the water boy, I'm immediately having flashbacks to that Adam Sandler movie. 14-year-old boy, year 9 of school. In the light of 2022 and Beetle's special education degree, we know he was probably autistic, but in 2000, that wasn't really on anyone's radar like it is today. He was just a weird kid that Kitty brought into our group as far as I was concerned at the time. Slight side note, isn't it weird that, I just find passage of time sometimes fascinating, that we know everything we know now about autism, and literally within our own lifetime, there was a point where, people did not even fucking know about that. That's just fucking crazy to me. I don't know, it's nothing to say anything about mental health at all. I just think it's really fucking wild that so much can change in, less than 20 years. Or more than 20 years, actually. Whatever, you know what I'm saying. Step monster. Hardcore Christian that is bound and determined to make me a godly wife at all costs. Sorry, I threw up in my mouth a little when you said that. She wants me to be a submissive woman and learn to take care of a man. My god. That's horrible. I hate it. I hate every sentence of that. Biofather, sperm donor I lived with at the time. This man is directly responsible for all the mental illness I suffer that I will detail in this tale, and am still in therapy for to this day. Hey, sounds like a fucking asshole. Sorry, I just really had to say that. Actually, it's due to therapy that I'm able to share these stories now. Well, I'm glad that you're starting to, get to a point where you can do these things and you're feeling better. That's really important. I'd love to help end the stigma of mental illness, which is the other reason I decided to share this story. Okay, I'm procrastinating. Some of this story I'm scared to tell, but let's just get into it. Hey, if it makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to. That's always how this works. So if you read Squirrelbeard, you know that I was not the nicest person at 16, and my first meeting with him was not one I'm proud of. In spite of that, Beetle and I became best friends and are inseparable. We did eventually abandon our lunch table, for a while anyway, and would spend lunch walking around the school. One day on our lunch stroll, we saw a girl sitting in the doorway alone. My instincts told me to walk away. I didn't want to pick up this stray. Beetle, on the other hand, having just been the new kid himself, stopped to talk to her. I still tease him about it to this day because he really should have listened to me. As he stopped to talk to her, I gave him a "what the hell are you doing" look, and he gave me a "calm down, she just needs a friend" look in reply. We've always had a way with eye conversations. Anyway, we learned that this girl was, in fact, new to school and her name was Kitty. I did not like this new addition to our group, but Beetle was adamant that we be nice to the new girl. I got some vibes from her that just weirded me out, but I had no proof of anything, just a gut feeling. I chalked it up to me not liking people in general during this time because of my trauma and tried to befriend Kitty. It certainly wasn't worth risking my friendship with Beetle over Kitty. And so, just like that, our duo became a trio. It was during this time that I had been starting to research a lot of different spiritual paths from Buddhism to various flavors of paganism, including Wicca. Beetle had been raised as both Christian and Wicca, and Kitty, well, Kitty liked the movie The Craft. Oh boy. I think I see where this is going. God, this makes me cringe. As an adult, I'm pagan by the way of Greek theology. This is where I finally settled, after a lot of research, on what felt right for me. Turns out Wicca was not quite where I landed. Fair enough. And I can tell you that while The Craft is a great movie, it's just that. A fucking movie. Yeah, it's a fantastic movie, but in no way, shape, or form should you think any of this is real. I cannot believe I ever bought into the Hollywood BS, but teenagers do. Before I continue, please know that now I know how stupid all this was. Fair. So Beetle, Kitty, and myself decided we would be a coven of witches, like in The Craft. Oh, ain't teenage years fun? We just need our fourth. We would cast circles and spells, not knowing what the hell we were doing, and it was so cringe. I also remember being a teenager. It's alright. We thought we were awesome. Meanwhile, Stepmonster figured out what we were doing and laid into me how we were bringing demons into her house, and she wasn't having it. We had to be way more covert about our witchy activities after that. We're still on a mission to find our fourth, and one day Kitty shows up to lunch with this bloke, Waterboy. Waterboy's a year younger than her and is claimed to be able to turn himself into a puddle of water. That's alright. He said he could travel through the school via water fountains, and I remember him always touching his lips because he had to reform them because they would liquefy. Yeah, okay. Oddly enough, he was never able to show us this amazing puddle-forming ability. I just imagine him like Alex Macking across school, you know? And so our witchy coven was complete, and we felt like real badasses because teenager brain. Fair. One day, Beetle pulled me to the side and told me that he saw Kitty walking through the hall and meowing as well as licking the side of her hand and quote-unquote grooming herself. Cat ears weren't a trend at the time, but if they had been, I have zero doubt she would have had some. Oh, I also imagine yes. This behavior was truly odd, but she was our sister, so we agreed that it was just part of her quirky behavior. The problem is, these quirks only began to multiply. There was one weekend that Beetle had other plans, so Kitty came to my house for a sleepover. It was the first time I'd really hung out with Kitty solo, and it would certainly be the last. We went to see a movie with Biofather and Stepmonster. After the movie ended, we headed out of the theater when Kitty suddenly froze and dropped her messenger bag and jacket and ran out of the theater into the parking lot. Biofather and Stepmonster looked at me like, what the fuck, and I was thinking the same thing. Being the good friend I was, I reluctantly pick up her stuff and go after her. I finally caught up to her in the parking lot and asked what was wrong. "I saw my dead grandfather," she said. I froze, trying to figure out how to even reply to that. Okay. "I miss him, but I wasn't expecting to see him today." "I'm sorry, but can you tone it down? You're kind of freaking my parents out." "I'm sorry," she said, taking her stuff from me. We went back to the house, but come Monday, I relayed the events of the weekend to Beetle. "What the fuck?" he asked. "I know, I tried to tell you we shouldn't pick up strays." "Well, it was one time. She's still our friend." "Beetle, I'm really not comfortable around her. And then there's Waterboy." "Waterboy isn't around that much, and Kitty is our friend," he countered. This still was not worth risking my friendship with Beetle, so I relented. "Fine, but I'm not going to hang out with her alone again." "That's fair." And I kept my word. I was never around Kitty without Beetle again. I was very uneasy around her, but I kept the peace. Then one day, Kitty came over to us claiming that her stepmom tried to stab her with a pair of scissors. Oh my god. Are you serious? You need to tell your dad. "He won't do anything." "So call the police." I can't. She would insist this, but would not explain why. Do I believe this happened? No. No, I don't. Especially in light of what came a few weeks later. Once again, she came to lunch looking like something was wrong. Kitty, what's wrong? Beetle asked. I'm not Kitty. I'm Becky. What? I never told you guys, but I have multiple personality disorder. Oh, here we go. In the immortal words of Zach Morris, time out. Here would be the part that I'm terrified to share, but Beetle reminded me that those of you reading this don't know me, so here we go. First of all, multiple personality disorder isn't a thing anymore. It's an outdated term for dissociative identity disorder. You probably know it from awful Hollywood versions like Split or those fakers from TikTok that exploit mental health for clicks. Yeah, that would be absolutely where I've seen a lot of that, yes. TikTok was a mistake. There's also a very similar condition called OSDD, and there are various types of that. These conditions typically, if not always, occur due to childhood trauma, aka abuse. How do I know so much about this disorder? Because I have OSDD 1B, in layman's terms, DID without the amnesia gaps. My initial split happened when I was 3, almost 4, because bio-father and all the hell that he put me through. I knew about having multiple me's from an early age. I didn't have the language for it until recently. I grew up thinking I just had imaginary friends and they would go away at the end of primary. They did not. Maybe the end of secondary? No. Okay, but the end of university? Again, no. Okay. For sure, by the time I'm in my 30s, yeah, okay. So I brought my experience to a mental health professional, and lo and behold, they are not imaginary, and there's a name for my experience. The relief of knowing what you have is not a psychosis, has language to describe it, and is manageable is beyond words. Yeah, no, I totally feel that. When I finally reached the point where I understood, my depression and actually had terms to put it in ways that make sense, you feel like suddenly there is language, and it all makes sense. And despite the fact that it does weird shit to your head, you at least know that you can kind of talk about it and control it. It helps. Later, once Beetle and I were married, he started to face down his own childhood trauma and memory gaps, only to discover he had full-blown DID. He did give me his permission to share that. It's remarkable to have words for our lived experiences, and the fact I don't have amnesia gaps helps because I can fill in the gaps that he does have. Although, through therapy, his amnesia is getting less and less severe. It's one more reason, I guess, that Beetle and I were drawn to each other. We get each other in ways that most don't. And newsflash, most people with these conditions do not seek TikTok fame. Yeah. There's such a stigma with mental health, especially these conditions, thanks Hollywood, that most of us live in anonymity and fly under the radar for fear of being misunderstood and having our whole lives turned into a circus. I debated so much about even sharing my condition here, but I think it's important that at least some people know that this disorder really is, and that it is, 1, nothing to fear, and 2, people with it can live normal, productive lives with health. Especially people like Herschel Walker being open about it and giving really bad takes on it. So no, we don't typically attack people with guns and have no memory and trying to use that as an out. System responsibility is a real thing, a real part of therapy, and a real part of true recovery that isn't rooted in Christian counseling. So thank you for sharing all of that with us, OP. That's really important to clarify a lot of things. And secondly, I see this kind of shit because I follow a lot of subreddits and things that talk about the kind of faker douchebags who do this kind of shit for TikTok fame. And there's always people in the comments being like, I have this, or I know someone who has this, and this is not how any of this works. So, yeah, it's just fucking crazy that these and it's usually young people who do. I have no idea why they can't just say they like to put on a costume and pretend. Why it has to be something else. Why it has to be all this nonsense, It just hurts people who actually have disorders and issues and things like that whenever you just, pretend to have it and push a really negative narrative. So, yeah. Let's continue. Okay, let me step off my soapbox and continue the story. At this point in time, The alter I was most aware of was one named Michelle, and Michelle was around a lot. She was literally born in the chaos that I experienced at Biofather's house, and so when I moved in with him, it was her that came around to help me navigate and survive. We didn't have the language for what there were yet, but we knew someone faking an alter when we saw it. Or at least Michelle did. I didn't recognize it was her influence until later, but it pissed her off royally, and it was the last straw for Kitty and I. Kitty faking the Becky personality for attention was just too damn much. No one knew about Michelle or any of the others at this time. Like I said, I didn't really have a language at this age to even share what I was dealing with. But I knew it was something you don't fucking use for attention. And if it's real, at all, it would not look like the Hollywood portrayal that she was putting out there. Do I think that Kitty had some sort of mental illness? Duh, I'm sure she did. I'm not a doctor, and I wouldn't even begin to guess what it is. Do I think that she had DID? No, not even a little bit. And using mental illness for attention has always peeved me. Hey, same. Side note, my daughter has Tourette's, among other neurodiversities, and those TikTok fakers piss me off too. Faking any condition for clicks is just gross. Hey, same. Yeah, I knew I liked you. Anyway, that's when I finally told Beetle I was done. I couldn't be friends with Kitty anymore, not even in a group setting. Beetle would still not walk away from Kitty, but was understanding of my decision. He would alternate lunch days with us, one day with me and the next with Kitty and so on. I hated this. I was back to being alone for half the time. I hated it so much. I tried to get Beetle to hang out with me more, but he told me that he would not be forced to pick between his friends. I was not going to risk losing Beetle, but I was clearly upset by being part-time friend. This did not last, however. Eventually, even Beetle got tired of the fake drama and cut contact. Kitty made new friends, and we each went our separate ways. Beetle and I became inseparable again, and spent more time with the rest of our friend group, and we didn't see Kitty again until after that school year. I guess she went to another school after that. I saw Waterboy around a few times, but we really didn't talk anymore. To this day, Beetle and I wonder what became of Kitty. Did she ever mature out of her drama? Did she get committed? Did she oh my gosh. Is she still alive? Is she out there somewhere living a good life? These questions may never be answered, but to this day I tease Beetle and tell him that we cannot pick up any more strays unless they are actual cats, and at this point no more of those either. I hope this tale was interesting. I'm sorry about the giant mental health soapbox. Don't have to apologize for that, I totally get it. I dealt with a lot regarding my mental health to get to a place where I'm living a good, normal life. Beetle has as well, and our mental health journey is one we value and take seriously. It also sucks fakers and stigmas have created a world where we have to hide our conditions just to live normal lives. So that's all I have for this one. What do you think? Does Kitty fall into legbeard territory? Be kind to one another and trust your instincts. Thanks for reading. Well, since this was kind of specifically written because of something I did, I'll give you my opinion. I don't really think legbeard is a proper term. Well, I don't actually know enough about Kitty to really say definitively. There's certain things that kind of meter out the whole legbeard thing, you know? But I will say that this is clearly someone who is like really into drama. They really like the attention and the drama and things like that. Because why else would you go about faking an actual disorder if not for someone to stare at you and to be like, oh, I have the thing. Look at me. I also have the thing. It's really just ugh. But I will agree with you when it comes to the whole how like annoying and horrible it is when people fake, you know, disorders and things on like fucking TikTok and on the internet for attention and shit. Like, no, I fucking hate that too. I'm in the same boat. I totally think that that's just gross and weird, and I certainly hope a lot of these people grow out of that, but at the same time, like, the fact that you have to even grow out of it in the first place, the fact that you already don't quantify this as being a bad thing, that's worrisome. That's pretty worrisome, to be honest with you. So, yeah. A lot of the live chat here is saying otherkin territory. That's possible. That is very possible. Again, I don't know enough to say definitively myself But I do feel that that's probably, in the area there. That was around the time when a lot of that was blowing up, too. So I would not be surprised if this whole, I'm an actual cat kind of thing is like, alright, okay. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for writing this for us. You didn't have to specifically, I mean, I know I did ask for it, but, it really does mean a lot. Thank you for actually doing this, and, I hope you're doing okay. I hope your family's doing okay. I hope everybody's doing okay. And I think that's where we're going to end this particular video. So thank you for being here and listening to this and all that good stuff. If you've enjoyed this, please check out my Ko-Fi, my merch store. That's what keeps the lights on in here. Because I'm a YouTuber, which means YouTube doesn't pay me shit. And if you would, like, comment, subscribe, mainly because small channels and YouTube hates that, so do it anyway, fuck them. If you would like to see this being recorded live, you can do that on my Twitch channel. That's every weekend. On Mondays we record episodes, so you're more than welcome to come check it out. And, yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you all, I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.